This is a Asian longhorn beetle, so called for its long antenna. Longhorn beetles often have antennae quite a bit longer than their body length, and this one is closely based on a species called Thermistus taiwanensis from the island of Taiwan. A lot of these kind of beetles here in the United States have come over from wood pellets and other wood products from Asia and are often known as pine borers because they are voracious eaters of pine trees and have killed, especially in the west and the north up in Canada, have killed a lot of pine trees and devastated a lot of forests and have really fueled the forest fires that we've been having here lately in Montana. So in town, I find these a lot earlier in the summer and the late spring. I think maybe it's after they've just come out of their burrows from the winter, and you see them late at night walking on the sidewalk when I'm coming home from my studio. They get up to about twice as big as this one. Those ones tend to have a nice green and purple iridescent sheen to them. This is the raw glass I use. These rods of glass are about the thickness of a pencil, and they're imported from Venice, Italy, from a factory that's been making this glass for several hundred years. And I'm going to make a beetle using these black and green rods. I use a striker to light my torch, and like to get my torch adjusted to the right angle for the type of glass that I'm going to be working on. So now I'm melting the glass down, making what's called a gather. I hold the rod at a slightly upward angle in the flame and melt it down, and the effect of gravity pulls the mass of molten glass down towards the solid area of the rod, allowing it to ball up and create more of a mass. So I take that gather and I smash it down flat into a lollipop, and now I'm just adding some other colors to the sides of it, and then I heat the whole thing up and I'm just twisting it up into a spiral. Now here I'm adding the actual first segments of the legs from tiny gathers on a tiny rod. Now I'm adding the thorax, which is the central part of the beetle. Adding the legs to the thorax, and now I'm making the head. Gotta put some eyes on the head, and then we'll progress to adding the mandibles. The antennae are the most detailed part of the head. To get these nice long thin antennae, I make a gather, touch it down, and I stretch it out pretty quickly into a thin bit of glass. And then I just go down adding more bits of glass, stretching them out and melting them back to make nice nodules for segments of the antennae. Till I have what I'm happy with. So this is a longhorn pine beetle. Apparently came to Montana in a shipment of logs for log homes and bored its way out, and is coming to us courtesy of Montana State University Entomology Department. This is a female, and she has very sharp jaws, so when we're holding her we have to be careful not to give her too many chances to get a hold of thin area of our hand because you can tell she's pretty unhappy with us. This is I think one of the most active beetles I've ever seen aside from like a tiger beetle. These spines on its thorax are pretty sharp too. It's kind of wedging my fingers in between its wings and the spines and pulling those spines into my finger. So if this were a male, those antennae would be a lot longer. Beetles use their antenna to smell, and that's one of their main senses for experiencing their environment. And so the females put out pheromones that tell the males where they are, and so the males have these really long antennae. With some species, their antennas are up to twice as long as their body, and they can smell right where those female beetles are at. So here I am finishing the legs on the beetle. This is actually the longest part of the process of making a beetle. Making the body and the head, the antenna, the mandibles, the first segments of those legs. The whole process takes about the same or less time than putting the detailed parts of the legs on there. I spend so much time melting the glass out, stretching it out, melting it off, melting it back, and adding tiny little bits for the different little spines on the legs and the tarsi, which are the segments of the feet, and the claws of the feet, that it more than doubles the length of making the piece. So this is where all the time is spent on my beetles. And what makes my work unique are these really fine details. Here's the finished product. So if you like what you see here, my work is available at galleries around the country, and I also teach occasionally and am in some different types of shows. If you go to my website, there's a page called Where to Buy, which lists the locations, the galleries where my work is for sale, and also lists all of my teaching engagements and any museum exhibits I may be currently part of. Go there, check it out, and see where you can go and look at my work in person.